To Mansfield's Best Mix. Hey everybody, I'm Tommy, and thanks a lot for joining us tonight for Rock Local First, always brought to us by our buddies at Metronome Music. They're located at the intersection of Trimble Road and Park Avenue West in Mansfield. You can always go there online anytime, metronomemusic.com. I'd say it was probably a couple of years ago I got contacted by a now really good friend, Paul Quinn, out of the Zanesville area. And Paul has got such a great connection with musicians and everybody down in that area. And at that time, he had all these great musicians get a hold of me. And a lot of those artists have been playing their songs the last couple of years. Well, it just so happens that Paul and his son Joey are in Mansfield and stopped by the studio for a quick tour. And I'm playing Steve Spires tonight on the show. So I thought it was so appropriate to grab you and do a quick recording and just say, hey, thanks a lot for the hookup years ago. And give me a little info about Steve and the whole Zanesville scene down there.
Yeah, there's a great music scene in Zanesville. I'm a native of Zanesville, but I lived in Columbus 30 years.
And they welcomed you back with open arms, didn't
Yeah,
they?
well, it's funny because when I came back to Zanesville, I realized on my way, I don't know anybody in Zanesville. It's been 30 years since I lived there. And but that changed really quickly, mostly because of the music scene.
Right.
I got involved in a local band called the Funkdopus, and I also was involved in promoting recovery from mental health and addiction. And so I married the two and started asking bands to play for free in the name of recovery, and found that most musicians were willing to do that.
Most musicians are willing. Anytime they can play, they're going to do that. You know my story about my kidney transplant, and the community put together an amazing concert, and all of these bands and people just wanted to be a part of that. They love doing that. It's what they do.
Right, and nobody gets asked to work more free more often than musicians, but they graciously do it for the most part.
Absolutely.
But when I landed in Zanesville now 10 years ago, a lot of the local area musicians and businesses hadn't really adopted social media too much.
Right.
So I went about launching it my own. I started my Facebook page, PQ's Rock and Roll Circus, and I'll promote the local music scene all on my own.
Right.
And that's kind of how it got started.
And you guys have got, I mean, since I've been in radio 35 years now, the music scene here locally has just been outstanding. It's just stayed that way all of these years. I mean, there's most of our friends, my wife and I, are musicians. They're just a bunch of great people. And from what I saw, when all of a sudden you gave my name and email address out, that many people from your area got in touch with me. Your scene down there is thriving.
It really is, and I think it's better than the big cities actually, because there's less competition, I guess. But we used to be people from Zanesville wanted to get gigs in Columbus. Now they want to stay local because they get their local fan base and they actually pay better.
It's also one of those things where everybody kind of knows your name, if you will, using a Cheers analogy. You get into these big cities and you just become invisible to a certain degree. They're so gigantic. In Columbus, 700,000 people, a million metro. You can get lost in that pretty fast.
Yeah, well, like you mentioned, Steve Spires. I mean, the Spires name is an institution in the Zanesville
Tell
area.
me about Steve, because we're going to play one of his songs here in just a moment.
Yeah, well, Steve is the son of a music teacher, and also Steve's brother David is also a musician, and is very well accomplished too. But Steve's a great guy. He teaches music locally. Actually, I've been taking vocal lessons from him. And he writes a lot of his own songs, which, as you know, you played his 16 Miles from Our Hometown, is one of the songs he's really well known for. But he has a lot of other really good originals, and he does some covers too, as do a lot of the area musicians, do a blend of originals and covers. But David Spires has a new song out I'll have to send you.
I'd love to hear it.
He's more country oriented.
We play a lot of country, and as big as country has kind of become again, in my opinion, I'm a rock and roll guy, but if it's a really good song with a fantastic story, I'm going to play it. And there's so many people. My wife Jules, sitting here in the studio with us, will tell you Emily Raff is a good example of that. Aaron Stoll, just so many other fantastic people. A buddy of mine, Jose Sanchez with Reckless Highway. True country, but they're really great songs. I have no problem playing those at all on Sunday night.
Great. Well, the song you have from Steve, 16 Miles, I actually recorded that. Your audio is from a video I shot at the American Legion. And Joey and I always called that the magical night. Everything was right. The music was good, the lighting, the ambiance. It was a great night, and I think a great performance by Steve and a really good song.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to take a real quick break here and come back, and in our next segment, we're going to play that 16 Miles from Steve Spires, coming up right here on Mix 106.1's Rock Local First.